hearing at the next meeting?
Board of Appeals meeting for June 12th, 2019. We have a short agenda, just number 10 Storm Street. But before we get to that, we have to affirm the minutes. People have looked at them. Are there any, did you have any corrections beyond what we've got here?
No.
Okay.
And, yeah, with the ones that we've penciled in.
Yeah, it's just editing for clarity. Move that we approve the minutes for January 9th and April 10th of 2019. All in favor? Yep. That's unanimous. Can I give that to Ed to pass on to Liz? Thank you very much. And the first item on our agenda, and the last item on our agenda, is number 10 Storm Street. It's a public hearing for plans to legalize an additional unit to a three-family building. A use variance is required to have a four-family occupancy in an MDR1 zone, and a variance for 2 additional parking spaces would also be needed as the site plan is submitted. Who will be heard in this application? If you'd come up and speak into the microphone, so that we can capture everything on audio and video as well, if you have video. I'm not sure that you do.
Okay, yeah, I don't.
Okay, that's fine then. If you'd give us your name.
Yes, my name is Joseph Krupatera. I'm the owner of the property at 10 Storm Street. It's the corner house of 10 Storm and 6 DeVoe.
Yep.
My parents bought it in 1959, and I purchased it from my mother just before she passed away in 1978. And I've owned it since then. I grew up in it, resided in it, went to Dobbs-Ferry School, and lived there for most of my life. About 14 years ago, I moved to Rockland because I was working in New Jersey. So I left that house, but I still maintained it and owned it. And I lived in 2 of the 4 apartments that have been there. And then, like I said, I moved to Rockland when I started working in New Jersey.
Okay, you don't live there now. This is just a rental property,
Rental and sentimental value.
right? Can you tell us a little bit about the 4th apartment and when that was put in?
Sure. As I said, my parents bought it in '59. So I was 7 years old when I moved there. And it was a 4-family house at that time. And it's been a 4-family house since I can recall. The basement apartment is separate from the cellar in that its entrance is off of Storm Street. You go down 3 steps and go into the apartment. It's a small apartment. Well, the bedroom is small. Kitchen is decent size, and the living room is a good size. The bathroom is the original old fixtures. As I said, since I've been there, since I can recall, it's been 4-family. And the only thing that brought this to my attention is I heard it would be a decent time to sell, so I was testing the market. And when I put it up for sale with a realtor friend of mine, that's when I was told, okay, well, if you sell it, you gotta have a CCFO. And that's when I found all this out. Did not know, I was always told everything was grandfathered in. The tax records from the town of Greenberg listed as a 4-family, so I've been taxed, as far as I know, forever as a 4-family. But it's, so I found out through Mr. Manley that it's only zoned for 3-family. So now, I wanted to make it legal. You tell me what I have to do it. And part of it is the appeal before the zoning board. If that is granted, then I will make the necessary repairs and corrections to make it totally legal.
Is the apartment occupied today?
Today it is not. It was up until December 31st. The tenant that I had living there had a baby, moved out to a bigger place. And since at that point I knew, I did not rent it out.
can I ask Mr. Manley, the provision for grandfathering, that applies only to area variances?
If, in a grandfather, if the property were legally existing for use or area variance, when, at the time that the zoning code is changed, then it's grandfathered in. This property had a CO for 3-family. When the fourth was added, it was never memorialized in permit or CO, so it was not legally existing. So what the zone calls for now is you're allowed, 1 family per, I think, 2,500 square feet of lot area with a maximum of 3 in the MDR1. Mr. Privatera's lot is a double lot, so conceivably, if he were to raise that house, he could put two families on the 2 subdivided lots. So a lot is large enough to sustain that many families in that zone. It's just the use of 4 units in 1 building that is not covered under the zoning, so he would need the use variance. It's not a far stretch, if you look at it the other way. The only problem is he would require 2 additional parking spaces as to what's existing. You could leave that for the planning board because he would have to go under site plan from the planning board as well, if you want to leave it up to them to determine whether he needs them or how he puts them in. But you would have to definitely give him the use variance for the 4th unit before he moves on.
Do we have a copy of the code? I didn't bring one.
I didn't, I always look it up, and I didn't.
Yeah, just because I actually like to look at the section on grandfathering before voting on this, just to,
We could
it's
pull it up
possible.
on our phone. It's like
Right.
Code 360 or something.
I don't know if there's a specific section on grandfathering. I think it's just state law.
While we're trying to find this, I just drove by the property a couple of times, but I drive Maple a lot, and I know Maple is very tight on parking. How is Storm and DeVoe?
Well, as I said, I've lived there all my life. Storm Street was generally okay. DeVoe Street is a one-way street, so
Right.
it's only parking on one side, and that can get tight. However, gosh, I don't know when, way back, my father, when he was still around, paved the grassy area on the DeVoe Street side of the house to make it like a driveway for parking for pet
Right,
None of, I think it would be in tandem.
yes,
But none of my neighbors have anything like that. Some of them don't even have.
don't even have driveways, yeah.
The house too on the corner that was recently sold, it was owned by the church for a while. I think that's a 2 or 3 family.
Two.
Two. On Storm Street and corner Storm and Ash Street, and that doesn't have a driveway at all.
Right,
So there's parking in the front of my house, across the street from it, on the DeVoe Street side. My neighbor to that side of me has a parking area that holds 4 cars too. They have 2 in that family, so there's really parking there on that corner. From a certain point to the curb, you can't park, but there's enough for a couple of cars there too.
yeah. And how do we count his driveway that holds, it holds 6 cars? Does that count as 6 spots or 4
So-
spots?
Well, that's up to the planning board, whether they want to allow tandem parking. Usually you have to have angle parking or 90-degree parking and a big enough lane to back out of it when you have multiple spaces like that. Some, they have been known to accept tandem, but it's, yeah, it's not often
So we're-
utilized.
The applicant is asking for 2 parking space variances, but that doesn't mean that he's providing 6.
He has existing tandem for 6.
Right.
But correct, he doesn't have legitimate 6.
Right.
What he has, he needs to maintain, and that would
Right,
be
yes.
grandfathered in for the 3 legal units, whether he has the sufficient parking for those or not. When we add the unit and legalize a unit, he has to add the parking for the new and keep what he has. So he would
Right.
be required to add 2 parking spaces, even if he doesn't have enough for the existing.
Right.
But he can't go smaller on the existing.
Right, and as I recall, there's no room to add more parking in that parking space that you already have provided. Yeah, yeah, you don't have depth or width. Yeah, right.
It's full width.
Yeah.
It goes from the building right to the property line,
Right.
or to a wall that's on the property line.
And seemingly that's working reasonably well, otherwise there wouldn't have been 3 in a row.
Right.
So the planning board has the option in the code to allow for adjacent street parking if they choose to, or to use a pileup. Or,
Right.
or you could give the variance for the 2 spaces. Those are the
And
options.
does the fact that this is a large enough lot to support 2 separate units, 2 separate houses, is that unique or relatively unique to this property on that street, or is that?
Yes, I would say so, because most of the houses there are already 2 or 3 family on smaller lots. There's like 1 or 2 that have larger lots, and, you know, the one that just sold further down towards the park has a very large lot and is being probably raised, and 3 townhouses are been proposed there, but this is one of the uniquely larger ones in the neighborhood.
If I recall, when Dobbs Ferry had its bicentennial, the town, the village prepared a map, and on that map, my house was the only house there. I believe it was the original Mr. Storm's house. So that's how old it is.
And I'm guessing the taxes reflect the larger
Yes.
property.
Yes, he's
Town of
he's been paying
Greenberg
taxes
has
on
been taxing
4 family.
Yeah.
Greenberg's property card is for tax assessment only. It doesn't reflect anything legal in Dobbs Ferry. But he has been, when they see 4 families, they tax you for 4 families. So obviously, they were in there at some point.
This may be yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, how do they know and we don't know?
Well, if I may,
Yeah.
also, last year, I received a notice from the village of Dobbs Ferry that I was due for a fire inspection. I had the fire inspection, which I passed completely. The inspector came, had it on the card, and charged me for 4 families. I paid $50 a unit to have it inspected by the village of Dobbs Ferry's fire inspector.
Part-time fire inspector, probably didn't check the C of O.
Mhm.
So it's just making sure everything's safe.
But he's been paying for 4.
Yes, he has been paying taxes on 4.
What did you track down?
No, I could not find the grandfathering provision. I'm sure it's here, but I couldn't, so I don't want to hold us up trying to locate it. I think my feeling is, the concern with these kind of applications is that if we do something for one house and everybody treats it as a precedent, we've effectively rezoned the street. But that, based on a few of the factors, I mean, I think if we were to approve this, to approve a use variance, making clear that it's the unique factors of the size of the lot, the fact that it's been assessed for tax purposes in this way for a long time, and also what I would sort of view as feeling grandfathered, even if it's, whether or not it's formally,
Technically, yeah.
you know, falls within that provision. So I think, you know, with all those provisos, I'd be amenable to accommodating the application.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think the one issue I really had was, I didn't want to see a 3-family house that's been a 4-family, that's been gaining rent from 4 families and hasn't been paying taxes based on 4 families, you know, for umpty-ump years, and that's clearly not the case here, you know.
I agree with both analyses. The only question I have is with respect to the parking. So with our approval, will the applicant still have to go to the planning board to address
They
the
still
parking
do.
situation, or can we approve?
Change of use would have to also go to the planning board.
Okay. They will assess a pileup, or should we be?
They could, like I said before, they could address the parking. and
Okay.
choose whether pilot or waiver or adjacent street would be appropriate.
Okay, and they're more involved in pileups than we are.
Yes.
So I think
They do
it
it
makes
all the
sense
time.
to hand that off to them.
Okay.
In cases like this, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if you can put a stipulation on a variance, like where, in cases like this where the lot is oversized and could accommodate that many units, and you could say the variance is in effect unless the property is subdivided or the house is torn down at some point. Because at that point, you wouldn't want a 4-family and then subdivide and add another 2-family next to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Well, I mean, is there sufficient space that this house could remain standing, and there could be a second?
I haven't done that analysis, but possibly to the other side, yeah, to the Ashford Avenue side.
Without having to come back to the
It might
zoning board
need
for-
area,
for
might need
variance.
area
Might-
variance to proximity of the corner of the building, but, you know, it does have that oversized lot.
So in theory, there could be 2 3-family houses.
But you wouldn't have parking for the second house, because you're gonna
There
build the
could be a
second
4
house
and a
on,
3.
you're gonna build the house where his parking
That would take
is-
away
Yeah.
even more.
Well, there could,
But-
I'm
but-
sorry,
But if you knocked it down, the first floor could all be parking. You know, and build up.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I think a proviso probably makes some sense.
Stipulating that it's good for 4 as long as the 2 lots remain joined. Is that right? We would just stipulate that the 4-family is okay as long as the 2
as long as
lots,
the lot isn't subdivided.
as long as the lot's not subdivided.
As long as the lot's not subdivided, or as long as this structure remains in toto.
Both, right.
Okay.
Okay.
I move to close the hearing.
All in favor?
Second.
That's unanimous.
Did we ask if anybody else wanted to
Oh,
be heard?
I don't think there's anyone else. Okay. We're not done yet, but we're working on it. What-
All right, so let me try to make the motion and
Yeah.
I'll accept amendments or, so, I move to approve the application for a use variance to allow 4 families in this residence, subject to the following conditions. One, that the property, this will only apply so long as the lot is not subdivided and a second residence is not installed on this property.
And that the current house, the structure of the current house remains in place. Yeah.
Yes.
And Ed, do we not rule on the parking, or we do rule on the parking and then the
You could
planning
say-
board?
You could leave just prove the use and leave the parking up to the planning board.
Even though a variance is needed, they can still,
Well, that's what I'm saying, that variance would be needed or could be addressed under site plan.
So I think we would defer,
yeah, when we leave the variances
defer-
up to the planning board to determine.
right.
For parking.
All in favor? And that's unanimous. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
And it is 8:22.
Much
Officially
longer than
close the meeting.
in-
Yeah, move to close, unanimous.